Hi, and welcome to day 5 of the Homeopathy Challenge. We're going to talk about how to get the best of homeopathy, and we're going to start with talking about the tools that are used to do so. And if you've had good results with homeopathy, you'll want those to become reliable and repeatable. So the way to do that is to use homeopathy systematically. So we've touched on some of the factors that enable that. So getting good symptoms using loco-moco, the location, the condition, the concomitant, and the modalities, or the modalities and concomitants, loco-moco. And so that gets a fuller picture of each symptom, more precise, nuanced information about them. And we now then want to translate that into usable data. So homeopaths use two forms of data storages, repertory and materia medica. A repertory is a storehouse of information, and we find the information of symptoms in that. And then we go to a materia medica, that is the information on the medicines. So the repertory helps us define which medicines are most likely to be used. So this is a book of a list of symptoms called rubrics, and a list of the remedies within that rubric that have been shown to produce and treat those symptoms, or the symptom. It is divided into sections representing the locations in the body. Usually it starts with the mind and goes to the inner head, outer head, different areas of the body, all the way through to fever, chill, urination, bladder, male, female genitalia, upper extremities, meaning arms, lower extremities, meaning lower limbs. So very, very detailed, and we would look in those areas for the symptom that we're trying to prescribe for, and then get a list of remedies that could be useful. So we can explore the symptoms of the patient's illness while we get their case information, and then we translate those symptoms as best we can into rubric symptoms in the repertory. Though the repertories are large and contain many rubrics, these will not represent all the symptoms of a case, and some of them may be left out. So our job is to get enough good symptoms to trace a picture of a remedy through that data. So the whole purpose of the repertory is to aid in finding a manageable group of remedies from which to research further. And we read into a materia medica, a group of remedies. So you can see here is a section of the repertory. And we've got, I'm going to zoom in because it's hard to read from the scan. So here we have air, aversion to open air. There are 85 remedies, and they're graded. They're graded from a bold capital, bold type, italicized, and then plain type. So you have a number associated with those grades: 1, 2, 3, and 4. 4 being a strong argument for this remedy, Calcarea carbonicum, this is the abbreviation for it, to be averse to open air. So if your patient is averse to open air, and Calcarea is a bold type, capitalized, it's a strong match for that part of their symptom group, or that symptom picture, that part of it. And of course, we want to have more arguments to support a choice of our remedy. So we would be looking for other symptoms in our patient's case that would match Calcarea as well, if that becomes the remedy we're choosing. But anyway, having this grading system enables a numerical argument for supporting our choice of remedy. Now, if your patient is worse in open air, ameliorated and desires open air, and calcarea is a 4 for averse to open air, meaning they don't like open air, then the argument is the opposite. It's an argument against, a stronger argument against using the remedy. So we would then translate our symptoms using this methodology. Now, this is an advanced repertory book. There are more simple versions that we can use, but it's just better to show what it can look like. So that's the repertory page, and you can see the symptom rubrics listed in the section air, open, and then you've got apoplexy. I've made a note of that. That's here, apoplexy, in the state of a shock or a stroke. For the beginner, this is quite complex, and sometimes the language of the past is confusing. However, there are many options of repertories for beginners and students to professionals. Nowadays, there are also many software options, making the use of a repertory a much faster process. Another note about the abbreviations in the symptom rubrics, the different typeface denoting the grading system. Another way we can look at symptoms is through a flow chart. This is very common for simple problems. So this is for looking for baby's skin rash, and I have this book on offer, a free guide to baby's first remedies, and this is one of the guides for finding a remedy to suit a rash. So the rash, we ask, is it itching or non-itchy? And that may be hard to define in an infant. Is it wet or dry? And so if it's itchy, wet, and we can see a group of remedies for which we could then research to choose the most specific one. And vice versa. If it's non-itchy and dry, there's a group of remedies that we might look at to choose the remedy. So that can be a very helpful process. So then we come to books called Materia Medica. I've mentioned them in the last lesson as well. And these are the materials of medicine in Latin. So that's a reference manual that lists the curative indications and therapeutic actions of homeopathic medicines individually. Its information comes from homeopathic provings and their clinical use and the experience of what it has treated. So there are different types of materia medica, just as there are different types of repertories as well. But we have what's called a materia medica pura, which is of proving data, clinical materia medica, which is the clinical use of medicines, then comparative materia medica, which compares different medicines that seem similar. Then we have characteristic and keynote materia medica, which means the most commonly indicated symptoms of medicines. Then we have special materia medicas, such as those for all the remedies and details of them for cardiovascular problems or psoriasis, and then maybe digestive disorders or headache symptoms. Then we have medicas and monographs on specific remedies and detailed. So different forms, and I'll show you some examples. Just here, a quick note, you can make note of this online resource. It's a French website, homeoint.org, and that's meaning homeointernational.org, and that's a very exhaustive list of online books, specifically materia medicas and repertories. Then we can come to some examples of how a single remedy, one remedy, is described in different materia medicas. So I'm going to use the remedy red onion, known as Allium cepa. Now you know the effects of red onion from cutting onions and getting, runny eyes, burning, itching, stuffed nose, and so on. So in homeopathy, we use those side effects to treat symptoms that are similar. And these are lists or synopsis of lists of those symptoms. Here we have an Allen's Primer of Materia Medica. the list of symptoms. Now, these are very small list, so you can see it goes from just the most important symptoms. Violent acute catarrh. Catarrh is sort of a mix of cough and mucus, particularly of the eyes, nose, and larynx. Neuralgic pains, general aggravation from warm air. In fact, when I get eye effects from cutting onions, I wash my hands in cold water, and it seems to change the symptom very well. Head pains, eyes, nose, throat, abdomen, urinary, respiratory, and extremities are listed in Allen. So looking at another book called Lippe, Adolf Lippe's Red Line Materia Medica, where he illustrates the most important symptoms of a remedy, and also those remedies that are similar in action and use. So headache better in the open air. Gets worse on returning to a warm room. So you can see that better cold and worse warmth for the remedy Allium cepa being quite important, and gives you some remedies to compare. Headache ceases during the menses, returns when flow disappears, and then other remedies that have that symptom as well. So it's really interesting. Other remedies for fluent coryza and so on. Copious watery discharge. So you can see how exhaustive some of these resources are, even down to the time of the diarrhea, hay fever, of course, for Allium cepa, the aggravations and ameliorations, and the relationships to other remedies, and even what dosage might be useful. So another resource to compare when we're looking at. So here's Constantine Herring's condensed Materia Medica on Allium cepa. We go from sections: the mind, confusion, fears she will become distracted, very melancholy, sensorium, so dull frontal headache, worse in the evening, like an electric shock, etc. Outer head, eyes, so going all the way through in quite a lot of detail. So we have different books for different purposes. Sometimes a very simple book like Allen's Primer of Materia Medica will give us the information we need, but other times we have to look much deeper. So these are some lists of books you could buy, and I've written them out as best I can. So beginner books, I've always enjoyed Miranda Castro's The Complete Homeopathy Handbook, because it gives you a lot of ways to find the remedy, and it makes concise the way a proper homeopath would look for the remedy. And it's very useful for treating acute issues like fevers, coughs. And you can just buy that online. I think that's a link to Amazon maybe, where you can buy it online. And then another one that's wonderful as well for the same purpose, very well illustrated in addition, is The Complete Guide to Homeopathy. And then this link is a complete list of books I could find that I would recommend on Amazon. And I'm not getting any profit from that. Philosophy books, and these you can get online and download them. They're out of copyright. So The Organon of Medicine, you can download this. I believe it's the 5th or 6th edition. Lectures on homeopathy from a renowned homeopath named James Tyler Kent. And then also Homeopathy Explained from John Henry Clark, a really lovely detailed book about homeopathy. The Therapeutic Pocketbook by Baron von Boninghausen, or Benninghausen, depends how you pronounce the OE. And here we have a download of that you could use. So make sure if you're going to download any of these, get them before the time runs out, or just send me a message if you want to get them. And then we come to Materia Medicas, and some of the ones I would recommend are The Guiding Symptoms of Materia Medica. This is an 8-volume collation of of remedies. So a stack like that that looks good on your bookshelf, but really more important than that, it's very useful. I use it very often. Wonderful, concise Materia Medica of Homeopathic Medicines by S.R. Fatak, and he was a medical doctor, so there's a lot of clinical indications in his works. And then a lovely book on Materia Medica of the nosodes, which I may have mentioned before, but you can read about that. But I feel like this is already a lot of information. I probably gave too much information or not enough. So we'll see. But that is the completion of the 5-day challenge. I do hope that it did make some sense to homeopathy, and that it does appear more logical to you how homeopathy can really work, and that doing homeopathy by putting in a disease name and trying to follow a protocol of treatments that are advised by Facebook groups or something like that is a very, very unreliable method. And that really you yourself, using even a beginner book like the Complete Homeopathy Handbook, can find very useful ways of getting to use homeopathy. You remember I mentioned this flow chart, the baby's first remedies. If you haven't gotten that from me and would like it, it's a very useful book because it provides indications on how to repeat remedies and how to decide whether your remedy is not applicable to the case and when it doesn't work, what to do. So that could be very useful information as well. So of course, homeopathy is a big subject and we can't really cover it all, but I really do hope I gave you an overview of the ways in which we can learn to use the best of it. So making you either a better user of homeopathy or patient of homeopathy or practitioner of homeopathy. So I think that's all I have to say. And thank you again. I look forward to hearing from you. Bye-bye. Hi, I'm just going to talk a little bit more about this Understanding the Sense and Logic of Homeopathy podcast series. And it was originally created for the students enrolled in the Homeopathy Simplified Course, just to bring a little more clarity to some of the concepts about homeopathy. It was really popular, so I decided to use this as a kind of promotion for homeopathy in general. The real course, Homeopathy Simplified, is much larger, of course, and it does provide an in-depth understanding for those foundations of philosophy and the practice of homeopathy, the tools used, how to select remedies, how to follow and manage cases, most importantly. And in that, it teaches the traditional methods of classical homeopathy as well as the method known as polarity analysis. That is a method based on research that's proven to improve the reliability of remedies chosen. And quite honestly, it's changed the way I practice entirely. Makes practice much faster and really much more reliable. So this is what students might say about the course, and this is quite a lovely testimonial. For many years, I wanted to be a certified homeopath, but found the online school that I'd enrolled in was such a challenge for me and just not meeting my needs. Once I found Jonathan and enrolled in Homeopathy Simplified, everything changed. My passion for learning homeopathy increased so dramatically that I finished the course in a short period of time. What I learned in Jonathan's program has proven invaluable. His knowledge and teaching style goes beyond what I have experienced in the past. His course and support has given me everything I required to launch my own homeopathic business. I'm forever grateful how Jonathan changed my life, and now I will be able to help change many other lives with homeopathy. So it's a really wonderful testimonial to read again. Wow. And there is a special offer for you as you've listened to this podcast. And it's where you can take advantage of a discount of 25% off all plans for the lifetime access for Homeopathy Simplified. You simply use coupon code Sense and Logic. And it'll ask you once you check out if you have a code, and it'll automatically take 25% off whichever plan you choose. There are only two plans, a 4-month payment and a full payment, and that's a big savings of about $600. So well worth taking advantage of. And you can find that at homeopathysimplified.com. So thanks, and hope to speak or hear from you soon. And I'll do more of these types of podcasts. Thank you.